Page 3, f minus g. X minus 3f minus g. X plus x squared. Now let's simplify. Oh, the minus can get distributed, so I'd have x minus 3 minus x squared. Many of you skipped that step and messed it up. So now we, as good algebraists, we would put the x squared first, which is a minus x squared. Then we put the x's. We have x minus an x, none of them. So there's no x's, and then we'd have minus 3. F times g. That would be x minus 3 times x plus x squared. Now let's simplify, or let's just expand here, multiply. X times x is x squared. X times x squared is x to the third. Negative 3 times x is negative 3x. Negative 3 times x squared is negative 3x squared. Starting with the highest power, we have x to the third plus x squared minus 3x squared is minus 2x squareds, and then we have minus 3x. The difference quotient for g. So we have to put x plus h in place of the x's. That's what it says. G with the x, which normally is here, replaced with x plus h. So g of x plus h. In place of that x, we're putting x plus h. We're not adding on an h. We're not subtracting off it. It said replace the x with x plus h. It says replace this x with x plus h. And there's a plus, and that x is going to be x plus h, and then square that quantity. Then it says subtract. And then it says x in place of the x's. Well, then it's going to look exactly the same. It's going to be, that's all of the first part, and here's all of the second part. It's going to be x plus x squared, and then put that over h. Now, I should square that. So I got x, and there's nothing to distribute on this quantity, so I'm going to have x plus h, move up here, x plus h plus, and this squared is x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. If I take x plus h times x plus h, x squared plus xh plus hx or xh plus h squared. And these two, the xh plus the xh is 2xh's. That's all of this. Minus, and this minus gets distributed, so we get minus x and minus x squared. All of this is divided by h. Now some of you got in a hurry and started canceling, boom, boom, smash. We take care of the combining like terms first. An x and a minus x add up to be no x's. An x squared and a minus x squared add up to be no x's, and so then I have left an h plus 2xh plus an h squared. All of this and these two are gone, and that's over h. And I can't cancel that h with that h, because this h in the numerator is added to other things, and when a quantity is added, you can't. You can divide it into each one of these, but that sometimes eludes students, and so I'm going to say you could also factor out an h in the numerator, and then we're going to write what h times what makes h? H times what makes plus 2xh? And that would be plus 2x. And h times what would be h squared? And that would be an h. And if that's over h, now this h is time stuff, this is down here by it, that becomes 1 over 1, and I get just this, 1 plus 2x plus h. Alright, this says find g divided by f when x is 4. Now you can do g divided by x in function notation. G, x plus x squared over f, x minus 3. Those cannot cancel because they're added or subtracted to other things. But you're supposed to do this, so I can get this, and this is what g divided by f of x would be. And then if I want to do g divided by x of 4, I would put 4 in for the x's and solve it. And so I would get, so this would lead me to g divided by f of 4, not times 4, of 4. Using 4 for the x, what do we get for them divided? And so we would get 4 plus 4 squared over 4 minus 3. So that's 16 plus 4 is 20 over 4 minus 3 is 1. Seven. This you should recognize as y equals x squared as the parent function. And you should show me several points so that I know you know what you're doing. And so the parabola goes 0, 0. 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4. Minus 1 squared is 1, minus 2 squared is 4. And I'd have to take points off of mine if I don't put on some units on the graph so I know what my spacing is, both vertically and horizontally. Now, I have inside stuff and outside stuff. I want to either take care of the inside stuff or take care of the outside stuff. And I'm going to ask you to do one or the other first. And I'm not telling you which now, but make sure you do either all the outside stuff or all the inside stuff first. I believe the majority of you folks did the inside stuff first. And that's this plus 2 on the x. And of course, everything on the inside works backwards. So adding 2 does not move the graph 2 to the positive direction. It moves it to in the negative horizontal direction. So it goes left 2. And so the vertex gets back here at minus 2. 1 over, it's up 1. 2 over, it's up 4. Make sure you put several points in the correct places so that you can really tell the shape. Okay, so I took care of the inside stuff. Now, on the outside, we have plus a times of 0.5 and plus 1. On the outside, we do everything in the correct order, and so PEMDAS says do not go plus 1 first. Do the 0.5 first. And I'll show you why it's incorrect to do that one if you do all the transformations correctly. You would, let's get the axis on here. This is on the outside, so it works vertically. So I need to say vertically. It's on the outside, so I do exactly what it says. So it makes the half as vertically tall. So that means move all points to half as far from x-axis. Okay, this point, half as far, this one's right on the x-axis, so I don't have to move it. This one's up a half, or up one, so it becomes a half as far. It goes to a half to be half as far away, and so does this one. And then at 2 over, it was up at 4, half as far as 2. 2. So this is minus 2, and this is 2, and we now have a parabola that's wider. Looks wider, but it's not really wider. That is compressed vertically, so it's shorter. Wider, there would have been something in on the x. This is not wider, it's vertically compressed. So that it's half as far from the x-axis. And then we're supposed to move it up 1. So now if I move this graph up 1, this minus 2, 0 becomes minus 2, 1. This minus 1 half becomes minus 1, 1 and a half. And minus 3 is 1 and a half. And at 2 it was at 2, so now it's up 1, so it's at 3. So that should look the same width as that, and vertically compressed, so it looks like it's fatter, but it's actually shorter. There. So we have up 3. Now, what students foul up on this one, and why I took points off, is they said, let's move it up first. So if you do that, if I take this one and move it up 2, up 1, and then 1 over up 1, over up 1, over 2, up 4. If I take and move it up 1, and then do a vertical compression correctly, some people just did this and then moved it according to calculator or however they do it and just left that point alone. But a compression, a vertical compression of the 0.5, if you're doing it afterwards, is going to give you the wrong answer because it says go half the distance towards the x-axis. So if I take this one that's up 1, it goes to a half. The one that's at 2 will go to 1. The one that's at 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, is that right? Over 2, up there. Yeah. 5 goes to 2.5. And we get the correct shape, but we get it only a half unit up instead of the 1 unit up you get if you do it afterwards. Now some people just squish this leaving the vertex alone, but that's not the correct thing to do. The correct thing to do is take it half the distance to the y-axis. So if you did this, you actually got more points than if you did this. If you did the vertical compression correctly, did the shift up correctly, but you did them in the wrong order, I didn't take off as much points as if you do them in the wrong order. Okay? And that's number 7A. And I'm going to go to the other page.